Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we'll be continuing with our DLC Legendary Lord speculation videos, once again looking towards the Dark Elves, where we'll discuss their lore, their rules on the tabletop, and how they could be implemented into Total War Warhammer. Today's character is TULLARIS DREADBRINGER, the Hand of Cain. So without further ado, let's begin. To better introduce this character to those not aware of him, we will read over his entry into the Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition army book for the Dark Elves. TULLARIS DREADBRINGER, the Hand of Cain. TULLARIS DREADBRINGER is the Chosen of Cain, captain of the Haganeth Executioners, and one of the most murderous war leaders in the Warhammer world. So notorious has TULLARIS become that the rumour of his presence sets an unassailable fear in his enemies' quivering flesh. And the merest glimpse of his blood-encrusted armour has been known to rout foes from the battlefield. Some Dark Elves recount that TULLARIS once had a settlement razed to the ground and its inhabitants butchered simply because he didn't like the name. However, legend tells us of a darker story. In the midst of an otherwise unremarkable raid, TULLARIS suddenly froze on the spot, lips working madly as if in conversation with some unseen party. When TULLARIS finally recovered, he ordered the captives brought before him one at a time. Each died a slow and agonized death at TULLARIS's hands, the rune of Cain etched upon their brow, and their own whispered name the last sound they heard. By nightfall, the village was a charnel ruin that unsettled even the stomachs of TULLARIS's followers, and it was they who set the place ablaze once their dread master had taken ship elsewhere. TULLARIS's destiny was forged long ago. He was but a stripling when the first great sacrifice of Haganeth took place, but as he watched the heads of the High Elves bounce down the steps of the great temple, he felt the beckoning of Cain in his blood. The next day, he leapt up to the sacrificial dais, tore the blade from a guard's hand, and slew his first captive, showering himself in his victim's blood. From that point on, his fate was sealed. He was one of the first inducted into the ranks of the newly formed Haganeth Executioners. Hellebrand herself soon took great interest in her new, talented disciple, and when the Executioners first formed a bodyguard for the Hag Queen on a journey to Nargothrond, she chose TULLARIS to lead it. Unlike Malekith, who claims to be Cain's mortal avatar purely for the accompanying political advantage, TULLARIS is the Lord of Murder's true herald. His dreams and waking hours alike are filled by violent whispers that urge him on to even greater acts of slaughter. Little by little, the Witch King has become aware of this unfortunate state of affairs, and knows that a reckoning between himself and the god-touched warrior will one day be necessary. Thus far, Malekith has stayed his hand, only out of uncertainty over which of them can rely most on Cain's blessing. Meanwhile, TULLARIS has made no attempt to challenge the pretender, simply because the Lord of Murder has not yet commanded him to do so. While he has ever remained Hellebrand's loyal servant, TULLARIS's first devotion is to Cain, and Cain alone. He has slain fellow executioners without flinching when he has thought them remiss in their dedication or sloppy in their blade work. Even witch elves are wary of his anger, and no few brides of Cain have found their necks upon TULLARIS's chopping block. Under his command, the executioners of Haganeth have partaken in such cold-blooded destruction that they have gained fearful reputation across the world. They care not that their leader hears voices, so long as the ghostly words guide them to ever greater victories. TULLARIS was one of those characters which was rather unknown. He was not a lord choice in Warhammer Fantasy battles, but instead was a hero choice, much like Lokir Felheart. Of course, their role in Warhammer Fantasy Tabletop does not mean that they're going to be a hero or a lord choice in Total War Warhammer, but I feel like this character, if chosen to be the newest Dark Elf Legendary Lord, could work rather well. Rather than being a legendary hero for the Hag Queen, TULLARIS could easily be moved to any location around the map. Khaine, the Lord of Murder, has direct communication with this character, and it could be that Khaine himself has told him to venture forth and seek out his enemies. Say in the example of a Beastmen vs Dark Elf DLC, he could be introduced in a way where Khaine has informed TULLARIS that these Beastmen know no passion, beauty or art in murder, and they simply are a destructive force that needs to be put out. His adversary could literally be any Beastmen Lord, as they all fall in the same classification. In regards to special rules and magical items, the character really doesn't have that many. His only special rule is Khaine's Sacred Slaughterer, where TULLARIS and all models in his unit have the Frenzy special rule, and his only magical item is the first Dreadbrringer, which is a magical weapon which increased his strength quite dramatically, and gave him the Killing Blow special rule. However, I would see this being implemented differently. In regards to Khaine's Sacred Slaughterer, I would see that he would be made unbreakable. This is a character that is obviously listening to the bloody Lord of Murder, and wants to commit as many atrocities in his name as possible. In regards to Haganeth executioners recruited by TULLARIS, they should also be considered unbreakable. Not only do they follow him without question, but they also fear him, so it would make sense for them to fight until their last dying breath. This, of course, would only be for his own personal army. You won't be able to run massive amounts of armies with just unbreakable Haganeth executioners. However, a faction effect could come into place, where all Haganeth executioners, regardless of what army, would also have a reduction to upkeep. And all other armies could even have a increase to leadership, or maybe just some increases to stats. To make this character more unique, the introduction of a side storyline could also be brought in, something which has not been done as of yet, where say TULLARIS will have to fight against the Beastmen Lord, of course, he'll need to put him down, but a side story could focus around TULLARIS going to the Shrine of Khaine and claiming the Sword of Khaine for himself. It wouldn't be as simple as just building up the shrine and then claiming it, but maybe also have some sort of quest, where after you claim the sword, you would then be assaulted by Malekith and his forces, and you would need to defeat him to be able to legitimately claim the Sword of Khaine for yourself as the chosen of the Lord of Murder. Side story elements, especially something like that, could be rather interesting. I'm not sure Creative Assembly would want to explore stuff like that, but hey, this is a speculation video and I kinda like the thought of it. Of course, as TULLARIS is Hellebron's champion, it could be that their campaign would tie them together in the form of a military alliance, very much in the same way as Malekith and Malus Darkblade. However, there would be some slight changes. We are aware that TULLARIS speaks to Khaine, and it could be that some events might lead to Khaine determining that Hellebron should no longer rule Haganeth. This would allow you to potentially break your alliance with Hellebron, and then eventually defeat her in battle. After which you could force confederate her, as now she becomes your champion, and you become the master of Haganeth. This would be just a simple script, no basic storyline, but just some basic events which could add a bit of flavor. This could even be expanded upon further, where in a similar sense to Alifanar with his targets, every now and then Khaine would speak to you directly and say which lords you needed to go for. By killing them you would be granted bonuses, By failing to do so, you would be granted negatives. It's very easy to use mechanics already in place in the game through various different legendary lords, and then just tweaking them a little bit to give a bit more flavor to each character. But what do you guys think about TULLARIS DREADBRINGER? He's rather unknown in all honesty, but I wanted to cover him because, well, I was kind of painting him up recently, so it just kind of came to my head. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.